Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andy Van Beber. This is the Voice of Reason podcast, and as always, you want to tune in and you want to see the good-looking face, but we have to help out our buddy as much as we can. And so Sean will hopefully, he said he's going to be joining us later on. So if he does, he does, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. It's okay. We love him regardless, either way. So I am joined tonight, as always, by Travis Kirkendall. Travis, what is up, brother?
Sorry to disappoint our listeners. It's just me with the messy hair and the scruffy beard. But
it's very I mean, it's got that northern Illinois, gruff, ready Chicagoan. Hey, you've got the look.
So what I'm going for, my wife hates it. I'm going for the Obi-Wan Kenobi look. I'm trying to get the.
Oh man, yeah.
I want to get it next.
Oh, that's awesome because
And I'm just gonna say hi to people like, hello there.
These are not the droids you're looking for. So what was your weekend like this weekend?
Pretty relaxing. We didn't do a whole lot. She had to work, so we just kind of stayed home, did the normal chores, and trying to save money right now, so not doing too much.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that before we went on tonight, and I was saying that I know there are a lot of people who are hurting more than what we are, but man, I was talking about this with Janine today. It's like we haven't lived this tight since we first got married, and I mean. It just, and we talk about it a lot, but it's just like, we don't, I'm like, I can't fill up I don't want to fill up my car or my truck. So cause I use the van and the truck both to go to church on Sunday, one on Sunday morning, the other on Sunday night. And I pull the van into the garage with the gas light on. I said, well, you're staying parked for the rest of the week until Janine gets paid. And then, and I was just like, so it is definitely, what's your daily driver now? I knew you said you got a different vehicle. What's your daily driver now?
My daily driver now is a 2007 Honda Civic Hybrid. I get upper 30s, sometimes low 40s to the gallon, just depending on how I'm driving or where I'm driving.
And what's the price up? What's gas up there now?
It's $4.68 for unleaded 88 right now, which is what I buy because it's cheapest option.
I know. Yeah, we're playing.
It's nice. They have Illinois has I don't know if it's just Missouri has or not. We have like unleaded 88, so it's like your regular unleaded 87, but they call it unleaded 88 for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's for 2001 vehicles and newer.
Yeah, because
it's usually like 10 to 15 cents cheaper.
Yeah, though. So that's okay. So that's like the ethanol or whatever it is, or is that the?
Yeah, it's supposed to like burn cleaner and for the environment. So that's why it's cheaper. Which, hey, if it saves me money, why not?
Well,
the car still runs great.
That's good. That's good. I mentioned it. For those of you who saw on Facebook this morning, I'm going to say it at the front of before we get into tonight's discussion. If you want to visit our merch page, because we're putting the order in a week from tomorrow. We'll be putting our first order in. If you don't want to get in on this batch, that's fine. But also, I explained in a Facebook post today on how to be part of our free giveaway, and what you need to do is share tonight's broadcast. Or share when we put up the Spotify. I couldn't think for a second, but the Spotify feed tomorrow. Share that, and I can see who shares. And the drawing is wide open, and we draw your name next week while we're on, and we will get you set up with a nice little shirt. So you've got between now and next week. Please like and share this, and that'll help us out a lot, and it'll help you out a lot. And I wanted to get that out of the way first. But
I I just want to say the t-shirts and jerseys are really cool. I'm like super excited to get my t-shirt I ordered.
Yep.
I think people are going to be really happy if they purchase
Yep.
it.
Good quality products, and it's local business that is producing it. So, with all that being said, we so tonight is one of those unique nights that when we have a podcast and
Don't worry, folks, it's not inflation. We're not talking inflation yet.
No, not again. Oh, and yeah, all the views just went. I've seen it already.
The gas prices again.
No, but we actually tonight's one of those nights that we go into, and we had a just kind of a hodgepodge of topics that we could talk about, and we can see where they go. And then one of the things that we were looking at this week, and it's kind of interesting to note, is to see how already, and I know people don't want to hear about the election, but how the election for president is already starting to shape up. And I shared with the guys today a couple of posts, and it kind of amazed me. The Washington Post, People Magazine, Time Magazine, your big publications are already taking these. CNN was another one who took a poll of who they would rank as the top 10 candidates for each party. And some of these, I don't want to say it would shock you, but some of them are really unbelievable. And we want to, so the ones that we're going to go through a few names, and we'll bounce these around a little bit. Let's talk about the GOP first. Obviously, the top guy obviously is Old Don, and we won't talk about Old Donnie T tonight. But some of these names might surprise you. Some of these people you never heard of. But of course, number 2 was Ron DeSantis. And Ron DeSantis is the governor of Florida. And I actually talked with my brother from Florida today. He's actually dealing with COVID, whatever the new variant is now. And he is, I said, no BS. I said, tell me what you think of if Ron DeSantis would run, would he be a candidate worth voting for? And what my brother relayed to me, and some of the stuff I've read about Ron DeSantis, as an educator, he scares me because of what he's done with the state education in Florida. But on the other hand, he has put, my brother told me this because he works in the mental health field down there. And he said, Florida at the beginning of DeSantis's administration was ranked 48th or 49th on spending on mental health needs. And of course, his daughter is also autistic, and so that kind of speaks to it. But since this first 4 years that Ron DeSantis has been in, Florida has now moved to right in the middle of the pack. He said, as far as infrastructure, they've put a lot of money into infrastructure into Florida. And I said, would you vote for Ron DeSantis? He said, I said, in the primary, would you vote for him? He said, well, it depends on who would be on the ticket. But, Ron DeSantis to me was kind of, and I think I sent the guys out 2 or 3 different, and he's in all of the polls, and on 2 of the polls that I sent to the guys today,
one was from February 19th.
Yeah.
And then they did an updated one
was
May 21st, all this year.
Right. And Ron DeSantis is right there in the top 3. And so
number 2 on both of them.
Yeah. Is he on both of them, number 2? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so Ron DeSantis, our buddy Martin Hanley says, thank God. But when you see some of the others, they talked about, back in February when CPAC, which is the Conservative Political Action Committee, had their meeting, and of course Donald Trump spoke. They invited Mike Pence. Mike Pence did not go to that meeting. Ron DeSantis was there, and the polling numbers after CPAC had them neck and neck. And of course, Donald Trump was saying, "Oh well, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on Ron DeSantis, Travis?
I mean, I've seen some stuff on him about some of his views, and I know he's a very conservative candidate. And I think his chances really depend on what Trump's going to do. I think the whole Republican Party, it really depends on what move Trump makes. But as far as Ron DeSantis, I personally have not done my due diligence and have researched him enough to truly
Right.
give an opinion on him, other than what I've seen.
Yeah.
So far, I don't think I'd vote for him.
Yeah. I mean,
but I'd have to do way more research before.
and that's the thing with the Republican side. I've been jaded against the Republican Party now for so long that, I mean, like I've said many times on this podcast, the last Republican that I voted for in an election was Mitt Romney, and of course that shows that kind of shows how long it's been, and so the Republican Party needs to do something more for me to get me to go over. Let's look at a couple of these others here. They talked about.
Tell me about Pence. What do you think about Pence right now with this whole situation with the hearing? I mean, so I saw here on this Washington Post, they had actually moved him from 4 to 3.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because what had come to light with this whole January 6th hearing and how he had handled the situation.
Mike Pence.
But I don't know. That's I don't see it.
I did not know. And I watched last Thursday. Unbeknown, a lot of people did not watch because they think it's all a setup and all this stuff and everything. But I watched. So, I mean, they released a lot. I mean, a lot of behind the scenes footage, audio. And one of the things they released was the radio chatter from the Secret Service when the protesters were entering the Senate chamber. And I mean, Mike Pence was literally, at one point, Mike Pence was 40 feet away from the protesters. And so they released this radio chatter of Mike Pence, of the Secret Service, and these Secret Service guys are calling their families. And then you see Mike Pence, and Mike Pence is, I mean, they show him taking him down the stairs. And I mean, he was just like, come on, let's go. And then they show him then they show the photos of him downstairs in the secure, and he's like, we're not leaving. And he's like, sir, we need to know, we're not leaving. And then they showed another piece of footage with Mike Pence, the majority leader of the Senate, and they're talking to the Secretary of Defense or Homeland Security or whatever it was, and he was just like, okay, you tell me, when can we be safe? When? Because we're not leaving. And to me, Mike Pence gained a lot of credit with me as someone who abided by what the Constitution said. We asked this week's survey. I asked, what are some of the qualities that you want to see in a president, in an American president? And one of the choices I gave was honesty, boldness, courage, ability to reach across the aisle, compassion, and respectful. And out of all of those, honesty took 54%, wanted honesty. And then second place was ability to reach across the aisle. Mike Pence, to me, and say what you will, and I know some people don't really care about the fact of him being, a Christian and everything. But Mike Pence is one of those guys who had stuck to his guns and didn't sell out. And he also, in my opinion, didn't get caught up in the whole evangelical right wing craziness. He just kept a steady course, and he kept a low profile like most VPs do.
Yeah.
But when it came to his job, And how much of, and then they talked a lot about the text that went back and forth between Pence and Trump. And again, I don't like this word, but Trump said, "Stop being a pussy and do what I want you to do," And Pence is like, "I'm not breaking the law. There's nothing constitutionally I can do." And to me, and of course, I think that's going to be, I mean, don't you think that's going to be the greatest thing, that's going to be the greatest roadblock to some of these mid-right Republicans is, oh, he betrayed us? I mean, do you think that that's going to be is that an actual thing that we need, that he probably, if he makes a run, that he'll have to be concerned about?
I don't know what percentage of that, what the percentage in numbers is that of, though, because I know there are those hardcore Trump supporters that do feel that way. Is it the majority though? I don't think so. I think it's.
I would love.
But then again, I don't know, because I've noticed. So YouTube, for example, trust me, I'm on this topic. If you look at stuff from like Tucker Carlson or like your Fox News reports and stuff like that. So YouTube did away with the dislikes, but you can see how many people like the videos. So like you'll watch a video of like a Fox News saying whatever, and it'll have like 16,000, 20,000 likes. And then you'll go to the opposite side of the aisle and you'll watch like an NBC report or something like that. And this is like NBC. It will only have like a couple hundred likes, but it won't show the dislikes. So I see stuff like that, and that makes me wonder, how many people are on that side of the coin. So it could very well affect Pence, for all we know. I will say, I think a lot of people do agree with you in that.
Yeah, Martin,
and that move definitely helped Pence a lot.
Yeah,
and our gained a little bit of popularity.
Our buddy Martin said, "I don't think that will be an issue, at least for the mid-right." And that's going to be, and that was in that article that was in that article too. We brought up too, though, was many people. I keep on referring back to this. I love, and I don't know if I call it a guilty pleasure or not, but I love the Duck Dynasty guys. They're, but Phil Robinson, who is he was a Trump guy through and through. And then I watched this, or one of my coworkers sent me, and he was conservative. He is a conservative, and he said, "Hey man, have you listened to the Duck Dynasty podcast?" I mean, it's more of like a religious scriptural, and I really dug it. And I've listened to a couple of their podcasts, and so they had the one that was called January the 6th, and Phil Robertson was quite upfront. He said, "I was a Donald Trump supporter." He said, he said, "But you lost me the moment those guys kicked in the window on the front door." He said, "I was with him even when he was at the Ellipse." He said, I would have supported. He said he wasn't there physically, but he was, he supported where Trump was going at the Ellipse. But then as soon as those guys kicked in the door, he said, "You lost me. And to me, when I look at someone who's going to be, when I want to see an effective leader, I want something like Mike Pence, because to me, he displayed to me a lot of likable traits. Number one is courage under fire. If he was about protecting and saving face, he would have gotten that. He would have let his Secret Service guys wanted to put him in the limo and get him out of there.
Yeah, they wanted to leave.
Yeah, they wanted to leave. No, we're going to stay here, and we are not going to cower in the face of a coup. And he stood for it. And to me, that's courage under fire. That's dignity. That's honesty. And and what's bad about it is, as a vice president, I mean, we kind of knew what we were getting with Joe a little bit, because we've seen Joe as a politician. Well, I've seen him as a politician ever since I was a kid. I mean, he was always a burr in the Republican side. He was always this guy from Delaware who always put it to the Republicans. But at the same time, he was also a guy who worked with Republicans. And when he was the president of the Senate, when he was vice president, he's president of the Senate, he did a good job with that. And, but now we're getting this older age, and and Janine and I both said, I mean, we're not Biden supporters, but you look at the guy. Biden tries to be honest and a straight shooter. But it depends on what day of the week you get him on. If he's had his meds and he got to bed on time,
He's personally, he's a little too inconsistent for
me.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Trustworthy.
That would have been another good. That would have been another good one for the poll too. Would have been. I mean, to me, what do you see as when you look and you want to see a good presidential candidate? What do you want to see?
Great question, because I wanted to get into this. So, right off the bat, this is how I'm going about elections for now on.
Okay.
Starting right here, unless a presidential candidate can give a clear yes or no answer to a yes or no question, I'll vote for them. If they can give a clear, honest answer and not dance around a yes or no question, they're already winning for me. And unfortunately, left, right, Democrat, Republican, most of them dance around questions. And frankly, I am tired of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see how you as a responsible voter can vote for somebody who cannot give a yes or no answer. Like here, I'll go after, not to go after Democrats, but I'll go after AOC for a minute. There's a thing I saw where they were asking, like, would you support President Biden in the 2024 election?
I saw that,
and she's like, well, we got to see it. And they're like, so it's no. Well, we got to see. It's like right off the bat, red flag for me. I'm not, you're not going to give an honest yes or no answer. I'm not going to trust you. So my biggest thing is trust and being upfront and direct. And I don't think, personally, I have not seen that in a politician in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to truly start voting for people who I truly believe are fit to be president. And that right there is huge for me, is trust.
I'll give you gotta give
me an answer.
With that, look, I'll make a comment on that. I want to hear some more of yours.
Okay.
There's a ghost out there. So there's a ghost out there that was called George Bush Sr. In his reelection bid in 1992. He was running against Bill Clinton. And I remember it was Peter Jennings of ABC who was the moderator of the debate. And he had talked about the Reagan era taxes and all this other stuff. And, he had made, Peter Jennings had said, hey, are we going to do, what is your campaign going to call for as far as, and he's like, and then he said it in the debate and then he said it again at the campaign, read my lips, no new taxes. And, 2 years into his presidency, he raised taxes. And when Bill Clinton got him in 88, it was Michael Dukakis. 92 was Bill Clinton. And so Bill Clinton in 92 just railed him on it. I mean, when he made that, when he made that comment, I mean, it's like, okay, you said no new taxes. Here's what you did. And so I think from that ghost, people are afraid to put it out there on the line and say, are you going to do this? Yes, I'm going to do this. Period. So yeah. So what else do you have then?
Well, to go off of that too, I mean, unfortunately that happens too. They're direct. They say they're going to do something and then they don't do it. Well, guess what? We have re-elections. Hey, this guy wasn't honest or this woman wasn't honest about what they said they were going to do. I'm sorry. I'm not voting for you again. Next candidate. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where I'm at with it. So yeah, honesty, one. Two, I'm looking for someone that's foreign policy is a really big thing for me. So I'm looking for somebody that has real experience working with other nations and in the foreign policy field, maybe some military experience. It's not really huge thing for me. I'm not going to vote for somebody just because they're a Navy SEAL or were a Navy SEAL. But yeah, foreign policy is pretty big for me.
The Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
I'm Eric Grimes, and I'm a Navy SEAL.
Going rhino hunting.
We're going rhino hunting. Yeah. I'm sorry.
And then I would say the third one. That's kind of the big two I have in my mind right now, and maybe someone that's okay. Here's one: somebody who's willing to compromise and who has some decent views and isn't so far to the right or far to the left. Somebody who's willing to negotiate and work, and someone who's going to bring us together. I think is what I'm getting at. We need someone who's going to bring us together, not just politically, but as Americans.
Yeah.
I think that is huge in a leader right now, especially of all times.
I liked, we had a couple comments here. Martin Hanley said, the other thing that I look at is what is their campaign strategy? Are you going to bash the other guy or talk about what you're going to do?
Yeah, that's something I take into account too. It says a lot about the candidate.
And then Tara, another one of our listeners, said, exactly, it would be nice to see follow through. It's difficult to vote for someone regardless because it's always, I'm going to complete A, B, C, and then they never follow through with their promises. In the history of studying presidents, when you look at one who, I go back to, I look back at some, Nixon's whole thing was, we're going to get out of Vietnam. I mean, he got us out of Vietnam. I mean, we went out of there totally with our pants down, but he got us out of Vietnam. When you look at, Kennedy talked, about doing more for what can you do for your country? Starting the Peace Corps, and then going into, and then taking a hard line against the communists. We are not going to put up with any kind of crap from the communists. I think of guys like that who make statements and who weren't afraid to make statements, and they stood by it. Stand by what you're going to say, and I was not a Trump person at all, but he said he was going to do with the economy. He did with the economy, but now we're feeling the after effects of that. So, I can't.
Yeah, I think most people forget that he was actually president when we started overstimulating the economy.
Yeah, and I mean,
and not to put all the blame on Trump, but I'm just making a point there.
So let's look at it. So we got to kind of, which is good. We talked about some things here.
What about? I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on? I'm going to kind of skip the list here because this is a name most people know.
Go ahead.
Ted Cruz. Personally. And one of the articles made a good point. Most people just don't seem to like Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz.
I think what really killed him was one thing that really killed him was what happened when they had that, what was it, the big snowstorm?
Yeah. And he goes off.
Took his kid to where was it, Mexico or something?
They went somewhere and there was like the travel, you should. Yeah. And he's like, well, I'm going to go back and be what, Ted Cruz, I will say this. Ted Cruz he is a legal. The guy knows the law. He studied law. I believe he's a lawyer, and he knows stuff. I mean, he's a scholar when it comes to some of the stuff. But going from here to here is an issue with Ted, because the guy. I'll say this for the guy. He has got a great sense of humor. Because I remember, I wish I could find this, there was this, he did this, there was a cartoon, somebody made fun of him. They took his head and they put on this tattoo, they put Ted Cruz's head on Sean Phillips's body, just with all the tattoos on and everything like that, and had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. And somebody posted it on Instagram or on Twitter, and they tagged him in it. And Ted Cruz, he said, that photo is not 100% accurate. I don't smoke. And I was just like, yeah. But he's just, I think the thing I was in that article that I sent you. One of the things that Ted Cruz tried to do was, he tried to be anti-Trump, but now he's trying to recorrect that and try to go back and get some of those far right people. And to me, Ted Cruz, nice guy, but I think he's a little bit of he's too flaky for me, because he doesn't have.
That's where I was going to get to.
He doesn't have. When I look at somebody and I say they look presidential, Ted looks like he's getting ready to go deer hunting, an opening weekend, and he left his permit in his other pants or something. I think he's a great guy. I think he's he's a great speaker. He's a great orator. He's very concise, but he's just, the one that really, what do you think about him?
Everything you said. I think the biggest thing was, one, the thing that happened with the snowstorm, but also he just doesn't seem, I don't look at him and say that's the leader of the free world right there. I don't see it.
Yeah. Well, the one guy and I want to mention, let's see. Tara says, also off topic, but the two-party system sucks. Yes, we have definitely had that discussion before. The two-party system.
We've talked about that before.
It would, yes, libertarian without feel like you're throwing your vote away. Yes, I've done that in the last 2 elections. I've voted libertarian, and
I was just looking up who the libertarian possible candidates for 2024.
I was going to say, who is that? Who have they said?
I don't know. I saw this one, or this article from, I don't know what the name of this website is. Possibly Joe Jorgensen again.
And here's the thing. And we talked about this before we went on, or I may have talked to. I don't remember if I talked with you about it, or I think I talked with my brother about this. But if they would put Joe Jorgensen, I do yourself a favor and go YouTube Joe Jorgensen speech videos. You will hear the most eloquent, educated, to the point. She laid and they don't want her. I guarantee you, they do not want her on a debate platform, because she would flat out destroy people.
They wouldn't let her on the debates, which frankly I thought was bullshit.
You had to have.
And here's what funny too. Remember all the people that were like, "Oh, Hillary can be the first woman president." Here was Joe Jorgensen, 2020 crickets. Same media that were putting that out before. Crickets.
But they don't want to talk about the libertarian. And here's the thing: there are a lot of disenchanted, not just Republicans. I read an article back during the 2016 election that when they nominated Hillary, there were a ton of Democrats who were mad and left. And so many of my conservative friends were like, "Oh, you're voting for Jorgensen. That's just throwing your vote away." I said, actually, it isn't. And here's the research to prove it. And I mean, there were a lot of disgruntled Republicans. I was one of them. I just said, look, I'm tired of, like you said, the party dancing and all this other stuff. And I would love to see, I mean, just give me one. I
wish the stigma would go away of that.
Yeah, and libertarians, I mean, they're more for states' rights. Hey, I mean, they're like Thomas Jefferson. The government that governs the best is the government that governs the least. And
that is kind of their approach to it.
And that's their approach. But one other Republican I did want to mention before we go over the Democrat side, Tim Scott. Now, this guy is a U.S. Senator, African-American U.S. Senator from South Carolina. This guy is purposely flying so low below the radar. But this guy he's getting a lot of, he released a book this year. And from what I've read about this book, there's a lot of presidential ease talk in it. And it's almost like it's a setup, and I would love to see this. I mean, first of all, he's my age, which isn't terribly old, but he's African American, young guy. There's that line between moderate and conservatives, and he's on that line right there. And I like the guy. They said he's so far he's raised $7 million in his reelection campaign. And they said, I mean, by all accounts, I mean, they say he's very popular in South Carolina, and they say that the way they put it was, the article said it will be a sleepy reelection race for him, which means, not going to be much of a contest. So, but
Yeah.
I would love, he's the one that, to me, out of all him and Mike Pence, I think, but I would love to see Tim Scott throw his hat in.
Yeah, I don't know enough about like what his views are and like what direction he wants to go. However, I've seen a couple of things with him like speaking, and I thought he was very well spoken and very like clear in how he presented stuff, and I like that about him. I don't know quite enough about him yet
so
yeah, I think it'd be a good candidate.
On the Democrat side, so this is where there are some solid Democratic people, young
Joe.
So the fact that he is 79 years old, and granted, my dad's 88, okay, but there's got to be some of the top names for the Democratic Party. Number one, she's not number one. She's my number one person that I'm going to mention is Stacey Abrams. Okay, so she is a rising star, especially in Georgia politics. She was the first African American woman from Georgia to be elected to the House. 2018, she tried to run for governor, and she narrowly lost her bid for governor to their current governor, which is Brian Kemp. But she could, and after she ran for re-election, or she ran for her seat again in 2020 and got her seat back in 2020. And part of the chat is right now that if she doesn't win her re-election bid, that the Democrats they're grooming this lady. I mean, but again, 48 years old, African American woman. And to me, her number one quality is, she's young. She's not, a part of the decrepit old white guys club, Let me know. I'm going to give one here that I know you probably have an opinion on, and that's Pete Buttigieg. Or Buttigieg.
Yeah, who is... it's kind of a weird name.
So he is the current Secretary of the Interior, I believe, under Biden.
Secretary of Transportation.
Transportation. I knew it was one of the lower level. And he's the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and he is not that it matters, but he is gay. He's a former naval officer he served in Afghanistan, graduated from Harvard, attended Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar, and when it comes to policy, political strategy, foreign affairs, this guy is just a mind. But the thing, Pete Buttigieg is not. I'll take that back. He's not the one who is gay. It was the other guy.
No, I think it is him.
Is it him? Yeah, he is openly. Yeah.
He's an American politician.
Yeah, openly. Yeah,
currently serving.
Right. But here's the thing. He's 40. He's younger than me. He's 40. And when you listen to, Martin says he is gay. So he's 40. Okay. And when you look at his claim to fame is what he's done for the city of South Bend. If you've heard of what South Bend was and how it has turned the corner in its economics as far as industry. I mean, it was one of those cities that were kind of I won't say they were in the Rust Belt, because they're outside that industry. And so they're just one of those Midwestern towns that kind of was falling apart, and he turned them around. And I watched an interview with Pete Buttigieg on what was it on? It was one of the Sunday shows about it was the Fox Sunday show, and the guy was like saying, shouldn't you use the 25th Amendment on Joe Biden because he's this? And Pete just kept on coming back. He's like, look, let's look at the things that he has done. He's done this. He's done this. And I mean, he did this off the cuff. He didn't have his prepared notes, and Pete was just going, he did this, he did this, he did this. And, here's the areas that we still need to improve upon. And he did this. And I was like, whoa, and it was refreshing. Go back to what you were saying earlier about a politician who says and does, the other, who was the,
I'm reading something here. I guess he was a big part of this act to Respect for Marriage Act, which is trying to it's like a same-sex marriage act that he's trying to get approved in Congress.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, I don't know if he's the one that wrote it up, but I guess he appealed to Congress this week asking them to approve it. And apparently 157 House Republicans voted no on the Respect of the Marriage Act. And I guess it's going to be going to filibuster from what I'm reading here. But I don't know, he's fighting for gay rights, but after this whole Roe v. Wade thing happened, and I mean,
well,
2022.
Well, and I think what they're afraid of is that there's going to be this downslide with the Republic, with what a lot of people, and I think, and we said that we've talked about this. We talked about this actually with Martin when he was on after the Roe v. Wade thing. On this next election is going to be interesting as to see how much the Democrats are going to use it, because okay, if they've overturned Roe v. Wade, what's next? What's next? Is gay marriage going to be the next thing that's going to come up on the block?
And that's why he's trying to approve this, but it's
right.
Like it's not even.
Yeah, it won't get. Yeah,
so that could change the election a big time.
And these next two I want to mention are the ones that are the most concerning to me. You know who one of them is, but I want to mention the other one first. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, very outspoken individual. He is, he served as lieutenant governor, San Francisco mayor, which that in and of itself is San Francisco is just a poo show, and it's terrible what goes on in San Francisco. I'm anxious to talk to one of my former students who is from San Francisco. She just went out to California for her sister's graduation. I'm going to try to text her when she gets back, and I'm going to say, hey, how was the miserable, she told me she called it the miserable mile, because right outside the San Francisco International Airport, when you go out onto whatever the road is that goes right outside the airport, they have what is over 1 or 2 miles of just homeless camps set up on the side of the road. And she called it she said the stench, and they never, I mean, as much as they have tried, they cannot tackle that homeless issue out there. But this July, as in this month, he started on one of the, I thought was interesting. He began airing a television ad in Florida markets targeting the Republican governor, Ron DeSantis. Okay. Newsom, he's very, they label him as a progressive. He signed a bill this week that basically protected a woman's abortion rights in California. And so, he's not one that would, he is, I don't know if I want to say he's liberal, but he's kind of like that mid-level, I get nervous when Democrats use the word progressive, because the way that the word progressive was used back like in Teddy Roosevelt, a Woodrow Wilson Democrat progressive, a progressive Woodrow Wilson Democrat is different than a Gavin Newsom progressive Democrat. I mean, those two terms to me, they're, when somebody says they're a progressive today, that kind of bothers me. What do you have any thoughts on Gavin Newsom?
My only thoughts are like personally from what I've seen him do with his state, I'm not impressed. So I mean, if I don't see someone like that being good for our country if their state's just a total mess right now.
Yeah.
And I saw some of the stuff that happened during COVID with him. I was just like, no.
Yeah. I mean,
mean,
the whole that was, and I think we're next to New York. They were one of the longest ones who kept not only the mask mandate, but also the schools out of schools doing virtual. And Martin says he's not impressed with how he has handled California either. But his handling of COVID was also a mess too. I'd agree with that.
Yeah, the amount of small businesses that guy ruined, no, I can't support that.
And the last one we want to mention tonight, which is near and dear to Travis and mine's heart, is good old J.B. Pritzker. And if you, I don't know if we have any Illinois listeners on tonight or not, but if you don't know about JB, you need to educate yourself because he is another one who is being groomed heavily by the Democratic machine. And when I say the machine, the Democratic political machine is alive and well in the city of Chicago. You can ask Travis. I'm sure there's not nary a Republican in Chicago politics, but JB, his big kick right now, of course. Martin says, "Please tell me he's not a front runner." He's,
it's being discussed.
It's being discussed, and before I go into Tara, Tara wanted to mention something about Gavin Newsom. That's all over California. You can't get into any bathroom in any gas station or fast food restaurant without buying something there and getting a key because the homeless population is so vast. We love California, but I will say that the streets and specifically San Francisco had the most amount of urine puddles. Oh my God, urine puddles. It was like playing the sidewalk is lava.
What? That's insane.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, Tara, that's great. That's great. Yeah. The sidewalk. Oh my gosh, that's great. No, but JB, coming to Illinois politics, I mean, he is a self-made billionaire. Okay. His family is the Hyatt hotels. His family is the one who is pretty much the majority owner of the Hyatt hotel chain. And he's in his re-election campaign, and he's up for re-election this fall. He's went outside of Illinois. And I only know this because I see him on, whenever we read in the paper, Pritzker to visit Indiana. And I mean, it's, going into Indiana, he's not going like to but I mean, he's doing Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, trying, I don't know what his purpose is in doing that, but his, he had a pretty bold, his response to the Highland Park shooting on July 4th, that everybody said, "Oh, that's gonna be the thing that pushes him." But the thing about JB is this, and Travis, we had this discussion beforehand. If there's something in Illinois to tax, JB has taxed it, will tax it, or is taxing it. A couple of examples, real life examples. And Travis says they already have this in Chicago. But JB, for a time, toyed with the idea of the plastic bag tax. And it was going to be a 5-cent usage tax per bag on plastic bags. Now, Travis, is that something that is commonplace up in Chicago, or is it? So
yeah, it's either 5 or 10 cents. I don't remember for sure.
So that's something that they ran with up there. We also have tax on the other one that gained a lot of ground, but it scared a lot of people and raised a lot of eyebrows, was his proposed gas usage tax. And the way the gas usage tax was going to work, he was going to charge 0.003 for every mile that you traveled in a year. Now, you say, well, how in the heck how in the heck would he do that? The proposal was that on your newer cars, we all have them. If you've got any, I don't know when they started putting the computer chip thing in the cars, but if you go to your, right there below your fuse panel in your car, in my truck, it's over on the left hand side. It's the computer port that your mechanical plug into and read your codes and all that stuff. And now there's insurance companies that they'll send you a little, like Allstate, Progressive, Liberty Mutual does this. They send you these little things that you can plug in, and it gauges how fast you take off, and it gauges how, over the past year, how do you brake hard, and they give you benefits from that. Well, JB's thing was, I don't know if he had an in with somebody or what it was, but he was going to make it to where, every Illinois citizen puts one of these things in their car. And when you go to renew your license tag every year, you take in your little thing, and then they plug it in, and it'll spew out whatever your mileage was for that year. And you say, well, 0.003, that's not that bad. But I was talking to Travis. So at the time when we were living in Pittsfield, Janine was putting in close to 750 miles a week, going back and forth from Pittsfield to Springfield. I was putting on, I forgot what I said, 90 miles. So I was putting on 360 miles a week going back and forth from Pittsfield to Clopton. Then you add all that up, that's a lot of cash. And that's the kind of progressive he is. And what spoke out, and the story that spoke out to me about what kind of, we talked about honesty and everything earlier with JB. So he has 3 mansions in Chicago, and Travis, I'm sure you've heard this story before, but they are all 3 condemned properties. But you look at the outside pictures, they look marvelous. Okay. But since they are listed as condemned properties, he doesn't have to pay as high as a property tax. They are listed as a condemned property because they do not have, he went in and pulled all the toilets and all the sinks out of these mansions. And so it goes from being a livable space into a non-livable space. And that's how, I don't know how much money you end up saving on it. And it was supposed to have went to federal court. I never did hear, knowing JB, he probably found his way out of it or something like that. But, that to me is just the epitome of, douchebaggery, dishonesty, whatever you want to call it, to where it's like, what do we have to do? And, just to kind of put this all in a nice little box. What do we have to do? What do you think the American people need to do, or what can we do to change who's running? You look at who do you think is really deciding who the candidate gets to be? I have an answer. It's not theoretical, but I have an, what do you think it is that decides who gets to be the candidate for that party?
Whoever the leader of the party is, or whoever runs the party. It's not the people.
No. And it's not the people.
It should be the people.
It should be the people, but it's also, think about this. We mentioned CPAC earlier. Political action committees. Okay, and the court case that happened in 2007, and it's escaping me right now, but it basically said, it challenged campaign finance rules and said that money equals free speech. Okay, and so if these political action committees, if these groups want to donate millions of dollars to a campaign, that's free speech. And that was such a, I think that was such a blow to the system, because people like you and I, if someday I had an insane quality that just sprouted up in my mind and said, I want to run for U.S. Senate or I want to run for president. Let's just go crazy and just say, I want to run for president. It's impossible for a guy like me or a guy like you. I mean, even into the upper middle class and even lower upper class. You know what I'm saying? For those people to be able to say, I want to make a difference, I want to make a stand, you have to find somebody who's got very deep pockets, who's willing. And so those are the people who are dictating who gets in there. It's not us, the people, politicians, and Tara said corporations in the top 1% decide the candidates. That's exactly right. When you looked at what how the Electoral College was originally set up underneath the 12th Amendment, and you look at how, it was the state legislatures who were truly deciding the electorate, and they were listening to what their people said. And they were, when it came to actually saying, okay, when the first political party convention was actually I think it was the Whigs in 1846. They went with who their people said. This is who we're going with. This is what the majority of the people said. There wasn't money that was being funneled into it. We were still in our infancy stage. But now when you look at these political conventions and you look at these political fundraisers, and, Hillary Clinton was infamous in her election campaign that she had a $50,000 a plate luncheon as a campaign fundraiser. Okay. Who's paying 50 grand to go to these things? It's not you or me. 50 grand is a used car.
Salary.
Yeah, exactly. It's a used car. It's my yearly salary. I mean, to me, to go back to what we originally said, what qualities do you want to see? What do you want to see when we say we want to see we the people? We're not we the people anymore. It's either we the party or it's we the millionaires, we the aristocrat, however you want to say it. And like you said earlier, Travis, I mean, it's not about the issues anymore. It's about dividing us right down the middle. Look at that guy. He's a dirt bag. That guy's a dirt. Yeah. Let's talk about what we need to truly make America functioning and united as one. That to me is what I want to see.
So. Me too.
But,
to answer your question really quick,
yeah.
About, what do we need to see?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I've said this before and I'll say it again. It comes down to us voters making responsible decisions and educating ourselves. Educate yourself. Do your due diligence and research these candidates. Why are you voting for that person? Oh, well, CNN said this. No, that's not good enough. Tell me why you are voting for that person. What are they doing that you like? What are their reviews that you like? What have they done the past 10 years that has looked good on their resume? What have they actually done? Most people can't answer that question. I can tell you right now, I still have no clue who I'm voting for in midterms. I have no clue who I even want to see as president. I haven't done the research yet. I'm not just going to check off a box of somebody just because of a political party. And I think too many people do that. And we've become lazy voters. I think America has become lazy voters.
Our primary is August the 2nd. I can tell you who I'm not voting for. Navy SEAL Eric Greitens. So that's who. I know I've still got to do my research on who the number 2 guy is, and at least hope that he's
going rhino hunting.
We're going to go rhino hunting. But man, thanks for the holy cow. I love seeing it when the chat board is full tonight. We had
some good interaction tonight.
We had great interaction. We had a large viewing audience tonight. Thank you guys so much, so much. Remember, if you want the free t-shirt, what do you got to do? You got to like and share this tonight. Share this broadcast tonight. Get it out there. Get your name in, because a week from tonight, right now, there are 3 names in there right now. And it's
That's it?
it's One of them is
T-shirt, guys. Come on.
it's me.
Chances are high. It's
yeah.
It's a 25% chance you can win.
Right. It's so Martin. I know you're still listening because I just saw you comment there. So Martin, you need to like and share this so you can get your name in. Look at that free plug from Martin Hanley. By the way, American traditional coffee K-cups are awesome. Free plug right That's there. Awesome. Well, I like that.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
And Martin said it. Martin said
the reason, lowercase.
Martin said I shared it tonight, so now Martin is in the. There he is. He's in for the running. So there you go. We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Great discussion. It's usually these are the episodes that scare us the most, but they end up usually being the most watched and the most participated in. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. You know, Sean did text me just about 30 minutes ago, said he got stuck in traffic, late meeting. Sean, buddy, it's all right. We love you. And
infamous LA traffic we
yeah.
Our man's living it now.
Our man is living it, and he's feeling it. So join us next week, and when we will have some great discussion. You can find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it, we're on it. So like us, share this broadcast tonight, share our stuff tomorrow, and we'll get you in the drawing for the shirt next week. Until then, we'll see you all next week.
See you.